This video is going to teach us how to make a simple crochet pot holder. All you have to know is single crochet, and what you'll end up with will be something that looks sort of like this. It is a double thickness pot holder, so there's more protection against hot stuff. The pot holder starts with a chain, just a straight ordinary crochet chain. Usually for a pot holder about this size, I'll chain 40. Today I'm going to make a demonstration pot holder, so I'm going to make it shorter. So start with a slip knot. And we're going to chain. I'll do 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I should say before we get started too far, what you need is crochet cotton. Walmart sells these big cones of 100% cotton, or you can get the Lily Sugar and Cream crochet cotton. Those balls work well. You can get maybe 2 pot holders, but you don't want to use yarn that's not 100% cotton because otherwise it could melt when it touches hot things. So we've got our chain, length 10, and we're going to crochet into each stitch all the way down, and then we're going to keep crocheting into the bottom of the stitch, which is not the way you normally do it. So first we're going to chain into each stitch, just single crochet, one, 2, 3. Doesn't really matter if you're going through two stitches or 1 stitch because we're going to pick it up on the back end. With cotton, sometimes the thread splits and you just have to be careful about that. But this is not precision crocheting here. Really doesn't matter what you do. I'm using a size H hook because that's what I could find. Size G works a little better. You get a tighter crochet, and so there's less space for hot stuff, but it doesn't really matter. All right, so I now almost, oops. All right. So I've now single crocheted into each stitch of my original chain, and I'm going to keep going around the bottom. And just because it's tidy, I'm actually going to crochet over my tail just to keep it out of the way. So I'm just keep going, single crochet into each stitch, around and around. If you have 40 stitches, this will take a little longer. Oops. Not sure what happened there. Sometimes you make a mistake. That's fine. Just pull out a stitch. Try again. Single crochet. Round and around. All right, I'm almost done. So now I've single crocheted through the bottom and the top of my original chain, and now I'm just going to single crochet around and around and around into each stitch. The way I hold my crochet yarn is I like to wrap the yarn once around my little finger, and then I put the yarn over my first finger and use that finger and thumb to hold the workpiece. You see there's 2 stitches, two pieces of thread here. I'm going to put my needle underneath those 2 bits of yarn. I'm going to wrap the thread over the hook. It's too bad that it's blue on blue right now. And then grab the workpiece, turn the crochet hook. It's going to grab that piece of yarn, and I'm using my finger to help push it in the hook. And then I pull the yarn on the hook underneath those two yarn pieces. Now I've got 2 stitches on my hook. I wrap around. I'm using the tension on my hand to keep it stuck on the hook. I turn the hook, it grabs the yarn. I'm sort of pushing the needle, the hook, a little bit away from myself, and then I'm pulling it through those 2 stitches. I've completed a single crochet. And I'm going to put the hook through the 2 pieces of yarn, wrap the yarn around, grab the hook grabs the yarn and pulls it underneath. I have 2 stitches, wrap the yarn around, pull it underneath the 2 stitches. That's a single crochet. Again, put it under 2 stitches, grab the yarn, pull it through, wrap around, pull it through. That's my single crochet. So I'm going to keep doing this. Make a stitch, make a stitch, and keep doing this for a long time. Right here, there's 2 pieces of yarn, and there's a little hole. I'm going to put the hook into that little hole right there, under 2 pieces of yarn. You can see there's 2 pieces of yarn there. Then the hook, I've got my yarn over my first finger. I grab the workpiece with my first finger and my thumb. The hook goes under the yarn, grabs the yarn. I turn the hook a little bit, and I'm going to use the hook to pull the yarn underneath those 2 pieces of yarn that were on the hook. Now I've got 2 pieces of yarn, 2 stitches on my hook. I go under my yarn, or I put the yarn over the hook, grab the workpiece, turn my hook, pull it. You've got to loosen up a little bit on the yarn as you do so. Pull it through those 2 stitches. Now I've got 1 loop on my hook. Here's a little hole. I've got my hook. I'm going to put my hook through the little hole and out again. Now it's ready to grab that piece of yarn. As you crochet, you'll notice that it'll start sort of folding in on itself. You can make it into something that's just a rectangle, but I like them better if you sort of let it fold down so that you get this interesting diagonal crisscross. If we keep going around, eventually, pretty soon on this little tiny one, it's going to be ready to meet up. And right before it's ready to meet up, we're going to take a detour, make a hanging loop, and then come back down. So that's what's going to happen next. Okay, so I look at this and it looks like I've got about 2 more rows to do. So at this point, I'm going to stop doing my single crochets and I'm going to take a detour to make a hanging loop, which means I'm going to crochet, I'm going to chain, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's see if that looks like enough. Well, I could do 8, but that's a really small loop, so let's do 12. 9, 10, 11, 12. Then I'm going to crochet back where I was. Just another single crochet. This is not precision crochet here. And then keep going around. Still single crochets. Now I've gotten back around to where my loop is, and I like a thicker loop because I think it's more secure on a hanger. So I'm going to just crochet over this chain by sticking my hook into the loop, grabbing my thread, and doing a single crochet. I'm not going to fuss around with trying to go into the chain. There's just no percentage in it. So I just go underneath, and this is, again, not precision crocheting here. I just make as many stitches as feels good over the chain so that all of the chain is covered, but I don't worry about making them particularly tight or anything like that. I'm not keeping count to see if I did the same number of stitches as chains. I just keep going over the loop. Well, sometimes your yarn splits, so you got to try again. That's fine. Over the loop until it's all covered up with single crochets. Now, once we get to the bottom of the loop, we need to assess where we are in terms of the pot holder. That looks like it's pretty well ready to close up. So when I sort of make it into a square, it looks pretty square, and it looks like the two pieces are next to each other. So I'm going to say this pot holder is done. And we've got to somehow crochet the seam closed. So now we've gone over the loop once, and it's time to assess our progress. Here we are, it's all messed up. We can sort of put it together and put the edges of our triangles together and see, when we do that, does it look pretty much like a square? And I look at this and I say, you know, that looks pretty much like a square. I think I'm done. So it's time to connect this seam. And you could sew it together with a tapestry needle, but who does that? I'm just going to crochet it together. So what I like to do is pick up just the top stitch of my single crochet and the top stitch of the single crochet on the other side, and then loop around and bring it through. And I'm not even going to do a complete single crochet. I'm just going to slip stitch. So I've got this loop here, and I'm just going to pull it through that loop that was already on my hook. So let's do that again. I find whatever I think the next top stitch is, the next top stitch. I pull my thread through those two stitches, and I pull it through the stitch that's already on my hook. All right, I'm taking the top stitch of my towards me stitch and the top stitch of the top piece of yarn of the farther one, grab my yarn, pull it through those two stitches, and then just pull it through the stitch that's already on my hook. And I just do this all the way across, just trying to match things up. You don't have to be super precise. We can call that good enough. So we can pull some yarn through and then cut it off. So now we've got a little tiny pot holder. Last thing to do is you need to hide the tail. So I'm going to make a little bit of a knot. Just put your hook somewhere near where your tail is, and we can just grab the tail, and you know, I'm just going to put it inside somewhere. We're not going to see. Remember, this is double thickness, so we can just grab it and put it inside. And All right, there it is. I'm going to grab it and put it inside. I just needed a little more space to do so with my hook, so we'll just grab it and try to put it inside so we can't see it anymore. Just shove it in. There you go. Then you can sort of use your hands to straighten it out, and there you've got a little pot holder. If you start with a chain of 40, then you get a reasonable sized pot holder. They work really well as pot holders. They work as trivets. Single crochets don't require a lot of concentration once you've sorted out how to do them. So these are good activities if you're in a long car ride or if you're sitting at home and you don't have other things to do. This is a great starter project for kids. You only need to be able to do really 2 stitches, chain and single crochet. You get a lot of practice on single crochet. This is an example. I think this was the second thing that my daughter Matilda crocheted. I wouldn't use it as a pot holder, but it's a very nice keychain.